All right, thank you for everyone that is here this afternoon. Let me welcome staff, welcome our PPVA president, and soon be off in the I don't know where, but I know he's gonna put me in a suitcase with him and take me along. Somebody computer. Okay, all right. Okay. So with that said, I'm gonna call this meeting to order and I'm gonna ask or take the player line acknowledgement.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We do got a quorum. I don't see Trustee Clark. Trustee Davy is out of town. Okay, at this time, I'm gonna just open the floor for nomination for chair of our budget committee.
If I may, through your chair, I nominate Trustee B. McDonald for chair.
Okay. Right. Is there any other nominations? For chair.
No nominations for chair.
Looking around, I'm seeing no other nomination for chair. So this time, I'm gonna call for close of nomination. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, so in that case, my governance person over here told me that I need a seconder. Okay, Susan is doing that. All right, okay, so I'll call it again. Any other nomination? Trustee Brad McDonald, do you accept the nomination, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, with that said, nomination closed and declare Trustee Brad McDonald the chair of our Budget Development Committee. All right, congratulations. All right, and then I'll move on to the second one. This time is I'll call for vice chair for our Budget Development Committee. Trustee Cameron.
Thank you. Through your chair, I nominate Trustee Cole.
Okay. Any other nomination? Do you have a seconder for that?
I do, sir.
Trustee Johal is seconding that. Trustee Cole, do you accept the nomination for vice chair of the Budget Development Committee?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. And then I'll actually give one more time. Is any other nomination? I see none. At this time, I'll call that nomination closed and declare Trustee Cole to be the vice chair of the Budget Development Committee. And at this time, I will exit the seat and hand over the chair. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Right, thanks.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your support to this, and we'll go on through our agenda. And the first thing is approval of our agenda. Do I have someone on the put that on the floor? Trustee Benjamin, someone to second that? And Trustee Cole. Anyone have any comments, changes, or suggestions to the agenda? Okay, then let's vote it. All those in favor of the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, it's passed. So we'll move on to a declaration of conflict of interest. Is there anyone here who has a conflict of interest? Either online or here? Seeing no one with a conflict of interest, then we'll go on to our first report, which will be the budget development timelines presented by our Associate Director, Jasper Gill.
So through you, Chair, wanted to share with the committee the budget development schedule for the 2024-25 budget. The process actually, in fact, it started in February, but with our planning staff doing the enrollment projections for the next school year. And then based on those enrollment projections and the ministry's benchmarks, we do allocate staffing to the schools, and that is done by our human resources department. So that's all done in February and March. Then based on the allocation of school staffing, our finance staff does the salary and benefit costing, and again in February, March. This year has been a bit challenging because of the ministry's changes into the benchmarks as well as the salaries being based on that they are still working through the previous year changes to the salary. So it's been a bit challenging, and we continue to work through the salaries and benefit cost on the school staffing, still working through that process. And then usually in March, we usually ask all of our central departments to see if they have any new projects or any new initiatives that they would like to get the board approve the funding for that initiative, and to submit the business cases. Those business cases we will be at the committee will be reviewing them at our next or the following meeting at that point. But they've been asked in March to submit those business cases so that we can have get some clarification if we need additional information, or to look through from the director's office on the review of those business cases. That's normally done in March. And usually in March and in April, usually the ministry, what we used to call the grants for student needs. But there's no longer the ministry. We just heard that the ministry have changed the name. Now it's called a core education, along with some other minor changes into the name. So that was announced a week or so ago, on Friday. They announced that close to the end of April, and because of all that change in different grants and different allocations, even though the ministry is saying yes, overall there is no change in the funding allocation, but I think it's as we all know that the devil lies in the details. So we'll still have to work through that, and our staff will continue to work through that to make sure that just with those changes and realignment of different grants and all that, there's no impact on our funding, other than there will be impact because of enrollment decline. Okay, so we will continue to do that. Yes, earlier from before this meeting, we do have our trustee learning session on the budget, which we just went through that. So the next one is a meeting today. So the focus in today's meeting will be on enrollment projections, because most of our funding, most of school board's funding is based on enrollment. So we will share with you the enrollment projections, not only for next year, but also for the next few years, to see where we see our enrollment will be in the next few years. And then we will also have an opportunity to hear from our associations to see if they have any presentations or if they would like to make, and the committee and the board to consider that information as we work through our budget development process. Like every year, there is an opportunity the public in general to provide input into our budget, along with the school administrators, students, And the parents, they have a lot of opportunity to provide us input. So we won't be doing it like in the past years. There will be consultation survey that will go out in the next few days that, and now give the opportunity, as I mentioned, to our stakeholders to provide the input to the board as we're working through the budget. And then our next budget development committee meeting will be on May 27th. And the focus of that meeting will be that we will provide you detailed information on the new funding allocations or the funding announcements that the ministry made. So we hope by then in that meeting, that will be the focus that we will share with you that information. So we could have the committee could have a good understanding of the funding that we will be expecting for the next school year. Then on the June 4th, at our next committee meeting, that will be the time when the committee will hear the various business cases. So we will have the senior team members here. They will be presenting their business cases. So the committee will have the opportunity to ask questions, ask clarifications before the committee and all of the trustees, in fact, will have the opportunity to review those business cases and provide fee input back into to us so we can include that as we try to build up the budget for next year. And we will also, at that point, we will also in that meeting, we will also share not only our revenues, but our expenses, except the business cases, because those ones still need to be reviewed and approved. And after on June 4th, right after the budget development committee meeting, there will be a trustee info session to consider the various business cases that were presented earlier in the committee. And we are hoping that in that trustee info session, after that we will get input from the trustees on which business cases that they would like us to include as we move forward with the budget development process. There will also be an opportunity for public or for them to come and delegate the board. Delegate the committee. Actually, it will be the physical planning and finance and building committee of June the 5th. They will have the opportunity to come and delegate in case they would like to provide any input as the board moves forward with this budget department. And then again on June 17th, there will be another trustee info session where we will walk through the draft budget page by page, line by line, as we call it, to receive any final or any input at that point from the trustees as we are working towards finalizing our budget. And it will be then presented to the board for approval and consideration on July 2nd. So that's the timeline and the schedule that we are proposing, and I'm happy to respond to any questions. Yes.
Yes. Let's be guideline.
Through you, Chair. Is there no way to do this in June and then it has to roll over into July?
Sorry?
Is there no way to wrap it up by the end of June?
No, I think what happened, sorry, through the chair. So the last meeting with the trustees where we will get input in June 17th. So we do need a few days to make any final changes to the draft budget. And then we would like to put it out that before the July 2nd meeting, we'd like to put it out, give to the trustees for the 5 days. So when you factor all that in, July 2nd is the earliest that we will probably be able to come to the board for them.
And also, remember, we have all the graduations going on, so we can't do it, that week would be the.
All the graduations are on June 27th.
So,
That
Chair,
week.
summer, there's middle schools and all that stuff.
June 18th.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's earlier than last year, right? It was June 4th or July 4th?
It was
Yes.
July 5th. It was
July
probably
5th, it was July 5th, so we're moving earlier, good.
Yeah, so-
Chair Green.
So just for trustee, if you remember, our board meeting was way down in June, our last board meeting, and trustee reached out and said, we got graduation. And then other trustees reached out and said, don't book these dates.
Right.
Because I already have commitments. So we had to find a date. So Catherine and I worked We found a date that was, basically, we also had to look at those dates of significance and everything like that. So we had to work dates, work around all of that to be able to find a board meeting dates. When after we found that dates, we recognized that, okay, there's not enough time for the budget to be brought to board for approval. So that's when we said we have to, just as we did last year, we had to move over to July. So it's all about accommodating, our schedule and everything like that. So that's the reason why we're over in July. Thank you. The chair.
Thank you. Good question. I'd love to be on holiday sooner. But it's just a budget meeting. There's no other business going on. Any other questions to this? Yes.
Will it be virtual?
Mike, will it be virtual?
No,
Okay.
in person.
In person.
It's budget.
It's budget. You sure it's not hybrid? No. Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Well, yeah, so we'll be hybrid, but we're requesting that trust because it's budget, it's a big item that we attend in person.
Thank you. I've seen no other people have questions, no one with a hand raised up online. So, who's gonna put this on the floor? Trustee Cameron, and seconded by Trustee Bailey. All those in receipt of this oral report? Good. Moving on. So now we're going to the next item. It is enrollment projections for 2024-2025. And who in our planning department will be presenting this? Please jump in.
Thank you. Through you, Chair McDonald. I think it's my task not only to identify enrollment projections for next school year, but also identify some past and future trends to help that might help assess planning. Getting right to the point, this is the elementary enrollments that we've seen over the past 5 or 6 years, and also what we're looking at going forward. So as you can see, up until the point of the pandemic in 2019, 2020, we were growing at a modest pace. However, at the point of the pandemic in 2020, we saw a significant decline from 2020 to 2021 of 3,000 students. That same rate of decline occurred for a second time into 21, 22. The rate of decline softened a bit into 22, 23. And so far this year, we're looking at a similar rate of decline as last year, about 1,000 elementary students. Going forward for next school year, we are looking at a decline in elementary from budget to budget of about 1,485 students. It is a little bit bigger than projected for this year. We just aren't seeing the same number of building permits in Brampton that we would have seen in previous years. So it's similar, but albeit a little bit higher rate of decline for next school year in the elementary panel. On a graph, this is what that looks like. So we've split it out between municipalities. At the top, you have overall board. You can see the steady rate of growth that we were experiencing right up until the pandemic. And it really changed what we were seeing. The biggest rate of decline that we're seeing in by municipality again is in Brampton for next school year, actually, just because of the lack of building permits. Mississauga expected to stabilize somewhat, but still some decline there. And overall, as a board, it equals about 1,400 students. You will notice the line at the bottom, that's Caledon. We are seeing growth in Caledon, so that does help offset some of the decline that we're seeing in the other two municipalities. At the secondary panel, we were looking okay for the last several years. This is really the first year in 23-24 that we're looking at a decline since the pandemic started. And that's just as a result. We've been seeing the decline occurring in elementary, and it's just been a bit of a delay in that hitting secondary. So the grade 8 cohorts are getting smaller and smaller each of the past few years. And that grade 8 graduating class going into grade 9 for this year just happened to be smaller than the exiting grade 12 class. And we expect that trend to continue for the following year or next year, 24, 25, a decline of about 300 secondary students. On a graph, this is what that looks like, an overall rate of decline for secondary, 300 students per year. We do expect that to stabilize a couple of years from now. We do expect building in Brampton to come back to what we may have been seeing before. There's significant growth areas still available to Brampton. Once that happens, we do expect enrollments to stabilize. There's a lot of other economic factors that will lead to building of homes in Brampton like we once saw. As you look back at 2010 to 2014, this isn't the first time we've seen decline in secondary. It's kind of just been a cycle. And as the elementary panel declines, it's just a bit of a delayed reaction until it hits the secondary panel. We put together some maps that highlight where the decline is occurring, not just between municipalities, but where in those municipalities. So in Mississauga, for example, you can see significant decline in the Churchill Meadows neighborhood. That's where the darkest of blues are. We're also seeing decline in Meadowvale Village and Malton. There are some pockets in Malton with growth due to new immigration. And also some pockets of growth in the city center area. That's right in the middle of those two sort of red areas. And there's also a red area close to Churchill Meadows called Erin Mills. That's right along Eglinton Avenue at the Erin Mills town center area. So there's a lot of condos being built along that corridor right now. So in Brampton, again, it's mostly blue. But we are seeing some growth areas in the northwest portion. So the blue areas we're looking at Graham East, so some would recognize that as sort of the Castlebrook catchment area in East Brampton, Springdale, that's your Sandalwood Heights, Louise Arbor, and all those Springdale elementary schools. The growth areas on the west end, that's Mount Pleasant primarily. I think I have a label for that, yep. And Credit Valley on the west side of Brampton as well. Also, Bram West is another growth area we're seeing in Brampton. It's just, if we were to have looked at a map like this for Brampton 5 years ago, it would have been primarily red. And now, 5 years later, it's primarily blue. For Caledon, we do have some hotspots. Caledon East there, we see a red area of growth. In South Caledon, we can see the Mayfield West community is coming fast and furious now, and we expect that to continue. However, in Bolton, we do see continued decline going forward. That's all I have for now, but I am happy to try and answer any questions.
Okay, before we ask questions, does someone want to put this on the floor? Trustee Cole, seconded by Trustee Benjamin. So do we have any questions or comments of the enrollment? Yes, Trustee Cameron.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Do we know, is the same decline happening to our coterminous board friends?
Through you, Chair, I did have a look at their numbers today before this meeting. So through the EDC background study, we are able to see their historical enrollments over the past few years, going up until 21, 22 at least. So their rate of decline was actually significantly higher than we've experienced, partly because they were all already declining heading into the pandemic, whereas we were growing still. So the pandemic has actually hurt them significantly more than us. For example, from 2016 to 2021, they declined by about 6,000 elementary students. In the same time period, we declined by about 4,200. elementary student. Bearing in mind that we have a significantly larger population as well. So it's not just us. This isn't a problem unique to us. It's pretty well all GTA board.
I'm pleased to hear that, not that I'm happy for them that they're suffering like we are, but that it tells us that it's a common problem. Either people are not coming here but not staying here, as we heard earlier from Associate Director Gill, or people are not moving from their homes, therefore creating opportunities for others to purchase, which I think is in some of the cases in my area. So yeah, I think we all scratch our head when we hear these numbers around when will we ever get back, if we ever will, to those pretty dominant numbers where we have pretty vibrant growth and vibrant additions in schools and job opportunities and children's social lives vibrant. So we'll wait for you to bring more people back, Alex.
He's responsible, right?
Thank you.
But I bet if you track the average house price over the last 10 years to, that I think is the affordability. People can't live in the GTA. I started to go off in a tangent. My son said, he expects to be teaching with his girlfriend, and he says, we can't afford to buy a house here. I said, maybe, you're in Guelph, maybe you can, but yeah, GTA, it's out of the question. Mind you, we're seeing some real estate prices going down now, but I don't know if we'll ever get affordability like we had. And that drove all this opportunity and growth. And yes, they want to build all this housing, but who can afford to live in them? But that's another story. But I'm glad to see you're forecasting, to at least leveling out. Because being a declining board is we've seen that around the province, how that is really decimating for the not just the morale of staff, but how you budget every year, because you got to shrink. It's just not funding is by people that sit in the seats. So, any other questions or comments here? Well, I want to thank you, planning. You're the. Oh, sorry. Oh, I had someone online.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Trustee Alex. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
No problem at all. Thank you, Chair. Through you, I just wanted to add to that comment and just a thing, thank staff for the great work that we're doing here at the PDSB. And I think, while we are, in my opinion, the best board to be at, I do think we just have to really understand the economic reality of the GTA. And just underscoring Stan Cameron's comments, look at the real estate market, actually just down the street from where I live, single family detached home, very old, is selling for 1.1 million. An hour away, St. Catharines, that's 2 homes. It's just the economic reality that we're in. And I think, looking at budgets moving forward and the reality of the GTA and what the city is going to look like in the next 5, 10, 20 years, we have to do the best with what we're allotted and make our case to the ministry, because while we do have less enrollment, it doesn't mean we have less need. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee House. Any other comments or questions? Again, I'll just echo your comments that I just talking about. Thank you very much, our planning staff. You really drive the growth with all the great work you do in the forecast, and I appreciate the work you do. So let's receive this oral report. All those in favor? It's passed. So we'll now go on to the next item, 6.3. So we have some presentations from associations. So we have 2 associations here that want to present. One.
We only gonna allow one.
Sorry, one?
We only gonna allow one.
Yeah, one. Yes, full straws. So are we gonna start with the elementary?
So, Chair, we have a presentation that's put together
Okay.
by the OPC, by the secondary, elementary, and associations. So in the room, unfortunately, I don't have a fancy graphic of the administrative staff. I gotta up my game. Well, no, I don't have to update date next year.
On the way out.
the others will. But in the room here is myself, who represents OPC as well as PBVPA, the Peel Elementary administrators. With me is Kimberly Jones, who represents the Peel Association of Secondary School Principals, along with her colleague Omar Zia, who is online. And then we have Jennifer Merkel online representing Peel Secondary School Vice Principals Association. So we have worked together to put together a document that in general reflects our ideas of the day. But I want to also say that the ideas that we put forth in some ways are still somewhat theoretical versus what you will get in details of business cases that will come from the departments. And some of what we talk about here is referring to ways of thinking, but also when you go through those business cases, keeping in mind some of the priorities that the administrative group has. So we start off with a bit of a rationale. And I do have copies of this for after, and I can send to the minute, whoever's taking the minutes, I can email a copy so they don't have to record it. But I have a couple of printed copies, and I have.
So if you can send that to Summer, who's behind you, she will distribute to the trustees and then get it included in the budget. As well, so we can have that as online for the public to see as well.
Yeah,
thank you.
So we want to start out with a rationale. So we want to look to inform budget decisions from an instructional and student support productivity lens versus a continuing of overwhelming number of priorities. Aligning funds with where the system will get highest return on productivity that directly supports schools to implement high quality programming within a supportive environment and school climate. So when reviewing department business cases, please be mindful of the proposals that support educators in the development of instructional strategies, methods, and content that will engage students in an increasingly modern and technological world. When students are engaged, they are in class, safe, and productive. When referring to human capital, funding should be prioritized on student-facing roles that work directly with students or directly to improve capacity of educators who work with students. So for example, resource teachers, instructional resources, and training. We recommend budget be allocated to support administrators to build instructional capacity of all staff and enhance school safety. And then we have a few specific areas that we want to highlight. So increasing vice principal allocation. So as we all know, that vice principals provide direct support and personal connection with students, families, and staff. Schools require caring leaders who can focus on well-being of students, staff, and community. This focus is not truly possible in many schools where administrator staffing levels do not meet the needs of the school stakeholders. The board has recognized the need for increased number of vice principals throughout allocation of funding for what we would call above complement vice principals, and in both of the last couple of years. Allocating full-time vice principals to the upcoming year would be a proactive measure to support student learning environments and instructional efficacy. Additionally, schools can be supported by allocating casual or retired administrator days to supplement the workforce during high needs times. So this was utilized and was evident last year with the spending of the student investment funds collaboratively between the board and OPC through last spring. We'd also like to ask that increased mentoring support for principals and vice principals, especially in year 1 and 2. Between half and 2/3 of all administrators are within their first 3 years in the role, including the heavily utilized acting administrators who have not yet formally been promoted through the promotion process. Additionally, too many school administration teams are comprised solely of newly promoted and/or acting administrators. This model has a direct impact on operational and instructional leadership and thus student success. School administrators require capacity building for themselves and their school communities. Utilizing casuals, so experienced retired administrators, as mentors and coaches supports the differentiated learning and capacity building, efficacy, and confidence in new administrators. Additionally, there are several new administrator professional learning programs and opportunities offered through the Ontario Principals Council that can be leveraged and supported through partnerships in learning. Perennial, we also advocate for increased education assistant staffing levels, and this year is no different in that because EA supports student safety, independence, and well-being. Additionally, EAs can support students to thrive academically as well as socially and emotionally. With the revisiting of regional and dedicated special education classes, students have been integrated into school populations, often without the direct support required to be safe and successful to full capacity. Within the current shared support model, EAs are allocated globally to schools based on identified special education students. The allocations do not take into consideration how identified special needs students may be distributed throughout the student population. Many schools require additional allocations to meet the specific needs of the school population and the physical organization to the facility. The shared support model struggles to support schools where multiple students who leave school property or self-injure, as the EA cannot be with both at once if they are in different grades, classes, etc. So I think you know. Chronic unfilled staff absences and positions. It's not a surprise. School staffing levels are set for all employee groups at the minimum necessary for effective operation of schools and student success. Effective staffing levels are undermined when the number of absences exceeds the system capacity to fill those open positions. Thus, unfilled jobs severely disadvantage effective instruction and success. Incentive programs for employee groups that have identified high rates of unfilled absences will encourage casual staff to work in Peel as opposed to other boards. Specific employee groups, positions, and subject areas must be identified through data analysis, and effective practices and incentives must be developed to fill empty positions. And when I refer that last piece about filling empty positions, not sick absences, but positions within the board that continue to be unfilled. Mental health supports, getting close to the end. Mental health supports, prioritize recruitment of psychoeducational consultants, prioritize increased staffing levels of social workers, including one in each secondary school, increase funding for the personnel supports needed at the school level to work directly with students. And in that, we're not intending to reduce central department supports, because sometimes when we are asking for specific student facing positions, some people feel that, oh, we're asking to take something away for some of the incredible supports that we get from the center. And we do not want to have that be the case, that we're not necessarily looking to take from there. We just want more. So lastly, special education and ESL supports. Increase school-wide special education and ESL support allocations. With the reduction in-school special education supports. Oh, sorry. So an example is the reduction in-school special education supports. For example, ISSP, so in-school support program, ZIS or MON, which are secondary terms. But Kimberly can fill you in on those later if you have questions. Have direct impact on our most vulnerable learners and the ability for schools to provide support to our students with the highest level of needs. So, like in general, those areas, so the ISSP, ZIS, and MON are specific special education, they're school-wide supports. Schools that host international programs should receive additional ESL allocations to meet the needs of those students. And then lastly, should additional envelopes come to the board, these are the things that we think this is a big need, is the ESL and the special education. As I said, can get separate copies, but I will share this electronically as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's put this on the floor so we can have a conversation around this presentation. Who's going to put this on the floor? Trustee Cole, seconded by Trustee Cameron. So do we have any questions or comments? By Trustee Cameron.
Thank you, Neil. When I hear amazing presentations like yours, I think I probably speak for many people, but we realize what we're short of is a blank check. Right? And we can't generate that. We have lots of competing needs within the board. I could probably assure you from my standpoint, we'll pay attention to everything that you have said and that we will see in writing. And obviously we can't make any promises, but the promise would be that we're committed to looking at what you have put together for us. And I really wish we had a blank check, Associate Director Gill, because we have so many needs and so many areas that need extra help. And there isn't anything that you said that I don't recognize as truth and of value. And in case everyone doesn't know, Neil Eccles is retiring at the end of this year. He has been an amazing person to work with. So all the best, Neil.
We're not gonna approve it when you come.
Yeah, then you can't go.
We approved it last meeting.
Retirement denied.
Any other questions or comments before we close that? Well, I want to just echo Trustee Cameron. When I listened to the list that your three associations put together, first of all, my first thought was, this is from people in the position asking for things that they need to run their business of a school, and they're asking us. And they're not just asking for themselves, and that list. It was very comprehensive. They're asking for everything that is in that building, and it was very comprehensive. And with that much fanfare in April, we released our strategic plan, which will be really formally a big bang release at our starting point. But in there, our goals for the year: academic achievement, student safety and wellness. So I'm going, check where some of those things that you said in there: community engagement and equity inclusion. And they all fall within those goals in which we're going to be focusing on making tough decisions if someone gives us some money to spend on a check. But, the EAs is certainly one we've heard, and I've been around 20 years and continue to wish I had a lot more money. But I think the absences is a very good point that may not be money, but maybe other ways we can do a better job to solve that, but may need, as you said, incentives. And there's other great things. I think the mentoring, that a great fact. I'm so sorry, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think you said 1/3 of administrators are new in the position in the last, something years. So, and as trustees, we see that, right? We visit our schools and we know our administrators. They're doing the best they job having, as you said, mentors, being there to support them is a great way to help them, get in and more comfortable in the seat and do the job that we know they can do. But we're putting them, as you said, two new administrators in one school. They can't rely, or so I'm sorry, three. When we're in high school, sorry, I'm always looking at Neil thinking elementary, but when we're in high school, maybe four, you can't rely on, someone, a senior like me, hey, what did you do, when you did timetabling or something. So I think that's a valid comment. And I hope that you can put some good business cases together and come up with some good suggestions, because as trustees, we want to support you. We want to also find the money to support you. And I think what you presented was fantastic. So I just want to thank, Kimberly Jones from the Secondary Principal Association, Neil Eccles from the Peel Principals Vice Principal Association, who presented, and Jennifer Merkel, who's online with the Peel Association Secondary School Vice Principals. Sorry? And I was going to say their associates Omar and Azima. So thank you very much. And I think you've hit some really good points for us to ponder when we start thinking in the future for budgeting.
Sure, can I add something?
Okay, sorry, before we go, yes, trustee.
It's not actually related to the presentation, but Kimberly Jones, who is our amazing principal at West Credit Secondary School, reminded me that this Friday they're having their plant sale. And if you want to get amazing plants, honestly, the students there are just so incredible, but at their service and what they have done. But you have to get there before Chair McDonald gets there because
Well, I got there late last
Yes,
time,
you
and
did.
someone went through and got all the good stuff.
I was there before you. But thank you, Kim, for the amazing work from your school and your students. It's really a wonderful.
Thanks for
I
that.
will be there.
Thanks, Dan. I much appreciate it. Also, all those in favor of this, receive the oral report, so be it passed. We'll go on to, sorry. Oh, we have one more, sorry. Okay, sorry, administrative staff, sorry. I was jumping ahead there. Sorry, Dana. I apologize.
That's okay. And thank you. So through you, Chair, I'm thankful for this opportunity tonight to speak on behalf of the administrative staff group. Many of you know me as my role in planning, but I am also the chair of the administrative staff group here at the board. Next slide, please. So the administrative staff group currently represents about 385 employees here at the board. We occupy positions in over 15 different departments, and you can see from the list down there all the different areas that ASG employees are currently working in. And we are our own group. We're not represented by any other unions or associations. So what our budget ask is for this evening is an increase in our professional development annual allocation. So currently ASG employees are allocated $250 a year. And what we are requesting is to increase that by $100 to $350 a year. So there's been a steady increase over the years. Sorry, could you slip to the next slide? Thanks. There's been a steady increase over the years for requests to attend professional development sessions, whether in person or online. But concurrently, there's also been a steady increase in the cost of professional development. So the current amount provides some limited opportunities for ASG employees, but a perfect example is this week, the OASBO Education and Industry Conference is happening. For a one-day admission to the conference, it's $339. So already staff are unable to attend because the limit we have is only $250. So I think professional development, we all know it's essential to employees' personal and professional growth. And I'm hoping that the additional funds that can be allocated to ASG employees will hopefully open up some additional opportunities for different types of learning that we can attend. So sorry, that was short and sweet and to the point. If there are any questions, please let me know.
Okay, so let's put this on the floor. Trustee Joe Hall, you're going to put it on the floor, second by Trustee Benjamin. Thank you very much, Dana. No, so if I understood, you asked for $100 more, but I only see 50.
So it's the request was to go from $250 a year to $350 a year.
Okay.
So it's $100 increase for 385 employees.
So do I have any comments or questions? Anything online? No?
Well,
Sorry, Trustee.
Thank you for that. And I do understand because myself and a couple of my colleagues here who attend other development throughout the year, recognizing the cost has gone up dramatically. And even some of us, we would sometimes want to stay over for an extra day or so forth. $150 doesn't need cut the registration. So I just want you to know, and your colleagues know that when time comes for budget, this is something that we need to take a serious look at, because I believe that the more we provide capacity building for our staff, is the more they will be encouraged and inspired to continue to do the work and get better at the work that they do. I think it's a good thing, that supports one mental health and well-being. So we will be definitely looking at this, and I don't know where in the piggy bank we'll find something, but I want you to know that this is something that, and I think I can speak, for us here, that we care about our staff and we care about your continued developing your capacity, that you continue to serve the most vulnerable people within the sport. So thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Any other comments or questions? So I just was going to say similar words to Trustee Green, that I have a comment, like, as an engineer, our association's now gone to, I now have to have professional development hours. Is that a requirement in some of your staff, that they need to, for their accreditation of what various designations they may have, that they have to do hours of learning, training to keep their accreditation? Or
I'm not 100% sure on that answer. I'd have to, because we cover so many different positions throughout the board. There very well could be some that require certain amounts of hours, but I would have to inquire and bring that back if that's something that the committee would like to know.
No, I don't think it's no, it's just a curious, and I knew it was going to be so complicated, because you have a huge list of a group of people there. I just know from my perspective now, I got to start managing that, and my company doesn't, unfortunately pay for that. So I don't know how to do that. But as Sherry said, it's very important to invest in your staff, because that investment pays dividends to the jobs you do, and our own ultimate people we serve, our children and students, for their better education. So I really appreciate the presentation, and I assume that'll be put into a budget case and then brought forward to us, and we'll know the actual financial impact, so we can then make the decisions that needed for it. Okay, thank you. So have we gone through it yet? All those in favor of receiving the oral report? Okay, so be passed. Thank you. And now we're of item number 7, communications, we have none. Trustees motions for consideration, we have none. Trustee notice of motions, we have none. So we're going to go to adjournment. So who wants to put trustee? Trustee Cameron, and seconded by Trustee Bailey. All those in favor. So we